G'day folks. Well, this is part 2 of the Holden V8 oil modification in the block. If you go back through and look at the other 2 videos, I explain where the oil travels throughout the block and what I'm actually going to do to it. So this little vid, I just want to run through on some of the, or on the sizes for the taps, and just show you what I've done to date and try and sort of make it a little bit easier. I'm learning on this too, guys, but at the minute I'm really having a great bit of success with it. I've pulled out Welsh plugs into the oil galleries and I've blocked them off with a 3/8 BSP plug, and I've tapped them out, so that's all done, and I'll show you that. And I've done the oil off the front of the cam bearing. I've drilled the hole into the main feed, so we get fed from the main feed across to the other side gallery, so we're not having to feed through number 4 cam bearing. And I've actually tapped that, and I'll show you that too, guys. So very interesting. It's a real, now that I've really got my head around it, guys, I can understand why they do this modification and why it would be so beneficial, especially for number 4 main bearing, because the way it was before, all the oil had to fill up on the opposite side of the gallery, the lifter gallery, and would pass through under the cam bearing to feed that gallery, starving the number 4 main bearing, whereas the other 4 of them would cop a good load of oil, whereas number 4 would struggle because it has to feed the opposite side from the main feed on the lifter gallery. And I'll show you guys. Okay, well, what I've done here is I've drilled number 1. I'll just get it up so I need a bit of light. So this is the main feed from the oil pump. This side here is the main feed lifter galley. So we've drilled this hole so we can feed the opposite side here galley fairly quickly without interfering with any main bearing feeds off number 4, if you understand what I mean. So I've drilled it there. I've still got to put my annulus in so we can get the oil across from behind the bearing, but I've made a start, and I've actually slightly increased the diameter too, and I'm going to do it throughout the block. It's about 0.5 millimetre. I've actually increased the size. It's very minimal, but I think it's going to really help. So, okay, so we've done that. We need to put an annulus in there to get the oil flowing across to this other side. And I've gone and Welsh plugs were in here. Now that I've pulled the plugs out, we're running taps in there. We're running bungs. So it ensures good. We don't get any unfortunate, a plug popping out, anything like that. So I think that's a great idea, tapping those. Now my next little trick is, this is the feed to the cam chain. I don't know what you call it, a little bit of steel came out from that. It was only pressed in, and a tiny little hole in there, looked to be about 0.5 millimetre. Sprays oil onto the cam chain. Well, I've blocked that. I've basically pulled it out and I've tapped that. Now that's with a 1/4 inch BSP, and so we can block that off. It's only a leak point. As far as I can see, look, there's enough oil splashing around everywhere else to ensure plenty of lubrication for the chain. And on the cam, what do you call that? The cam retainer. This is the cam retainer bolt. Well, there's an actual retainer there that holds the camshaft in place to stop end play. and coming out, well, that's actually got a small hole in the end of it too. So I'm not too concerned about that one, but that would, you know, sort of piss out oil there and help feed the chain too. So that's an old trick, that one. I was told to block that one off. Now, my next little trick that I've done down here, this is number 4. Let's get the torch around. Number 4 cam bearing. Now this is what I was explaining before. The oil gets fed through here and then has to pass through this side to feed the lifter galley. Well, what we're doing now is we're blocking this off. We're actually not blocking it, but we're going to restrict it, because now we don't need to rely on this hole to fill the lifter galley up. We're getting good flow of oil through here to feed this bearing now, and not getting a bleed off through to this side. I'm actually going to drill a hole, probably about a millimetre hole, just a little restrictor to slow it all down. And there is a reason they don't block it completely. Maybe it's for air pockets or whatever, I don't know, but I feel that, well, they restrict it. They don't block it all together, they just restrict it. So again, that is a 1/4 BSP drilled out and tapped. I've got to do a little bit of modification to the tap itself. That's it there, guys. I've actually got to grind just a little bit off the top of it and then drill my 1mm hole. And I'll show you the drill bit. It's going to be... No, it's not a 1mm hole. I tell a lie, it's a 1.5. So it's a very fine hole. So I've got to be very ginger with drilling that in through that bung. And I've just got to take a little bit off the top of it, so we're still getting oil clear around the annulus. But I'll show you that, guys, when I do it. And that sort of blocks off number 4, which will tap down in there. I've had it all sort of tapped in. And like I said, we drill our 1.5mm hole, so we restrict it very considerably. And we're getting a good feed of oil to number 4 main journal, or main bearing, and then it can feed the journals off the con rods. Because that's the problem. If we're feeding this side lifter valley solely with no other feed point, we're losing pressure through to here, and that's the main win of restricting this down to basically nothing and opening up another option here off the front cam lobe to feed this side, because this number 1 main bearing is fed on its own through this part here. It has nothing to do with in here. So there's no hole there except for the main bearing, but that'll be fantastic. Sorry, not even a hole there. What am I on about? Sorry guys, there's no hole there. It's actually on an angle. So we can feed this side easily without fear of starving this one. So sorry guys, I just got a bit confused there. Yes. So okay, well that's a 1/4 inch BSP. They are tapered. Okay, so they do tighten up as they get in. If you need to do any little modifications, like grind the tops down a little bit, you can do it quite successfully. There's a fair depth of slot there for your Allen key, and that's no trouble. Now these ones here you do, well, hang on a second before I go any further guys, because I want to give this information out for anyone that wants to sort of do it. It'll just make your job a lot easier. To drill this cam bearing out to accept the tap, you need to do it an 8.5mm for the 1/4 inch BSP. Now the taps you'll get, I've borrowed these ones off my local engineer shop. There's a 2-stage, okay? So obviously you run the one on the left, which is tapered, get that sent through, and then on the one on the right, it gives it that final tap out. You can't do it straight up on the first one. It just doesn't work. Now on the bigger ones, the 3.8, it's the same deal. So the one on the left would be the first one I tap through, and then I send the second one through to clean up, and just to clean up that thread to accept the 3/8 BSP bung. And I have blocked this one off, this one, and under here. So there's 3 of them. And there is another bung at the back. Yeah, I think it's right. It's there. It's down. You can see it down in there. So we have 4 3/8 bungs, but that one's from factory, so you don't have to touch that one. It's just the 3 up the front here that ran the Welsh plugs. Now we've tapped them off, and we're good to go. Okay guys, well I hope that sort of explains things a little bit easy in more detail for you. The next vid will be, obviously I'll have all my holes drilled, I'll have my annulus put in. I'm actually drilling out, and you can see it there guys, I'm stepping out to a 5/8 drill bit down here too, and in through there. It's the this is the from the drain, from the pickup point. So we're drilling, enlarging that just slightly, and I'm still in the throes. I'm wanting to increase the diameter size on this. I just can't get a drill bit. It's long enough for what I need at this stage. These are reduced shank, and it'll only sort of get me down to there. So I need to think about that one a little bit more, but we'll see. But we're well on the way, guys. We're getting through it, and it's not hard. Just take your time and don't rush it. That's the key. And I'll show you that angle too. It'll give you a bit of a heads up. There. When you when you wind these in, be very mindful that where the hole is on the inside, that this doesn't interfere with it. And if it does, you need to grind it back a little bit, so you've still got good flow, and you're not restricting it. It's not hard, but it's I think it's going to be well worth it. Alright guys, well, it's just a little part 3 update. Any questions, more than happy to answer them. This really excites me, that this little mod, because I know they do suffer up in the revs, and by doing these little tricks, it's going to ensure good flow to all the bearings and ensure for durability, and that's what we're all about, guys. Alright folks, hook one up soon, catch yous later.